Welcome back to Liquid Studios, the home of the BIPC webinar. Thank you for having us again for the team here. We've got Tony back. Welcome Tony as well. We did a really great webinar, which you must check out on our YouTube channel, about tax and the wider implications of tax for new business. But we just wanted to come and do this short section on VAT and payroll. Now, a lot of people starting out may not need to worry about that, which is a great gift, because if you don't need to worry about VAT and payroll, you've got a far easier life than people that do. However, we are getting people through our doors who this is a very real conundrum. So we wanted to do a short piece about that. So we'll split it into two, Tony, and thanks for coming back for this. VAT first. I have had businesses which were VAT registered. I've had businesses that weren't VAT registered. I've ran businesses alongside each other. One was and one wasn't. And there was very definite reasons for that at the time. I would say there's pros and cons. Obviously, a lot of people were familiar with the term claiming VAT back. You know, we hear this term, I'm claiming the VAT back, I'm claiming the VAT back. Claiming VAT back sounds great. One of the businesses that I was VAT registered in, when we crossed that threshold, we made a point of crossing that threshold and trying to power through it, as is often the best way to do it, not float around just under or just over. But it turned out, because of the nature of the product, which was people I was working with, they weren't VAT registered. So then I was in a conundrum where I had to charge VAT and couldn't claim any back. So that was my experience of there definitely not being a one-size-fits-all. You should or should not be VAT registered. There is also the legality side of when you have to and have not to be VAT registered. And then there's the optional side of if you want to choose to be VAT registered as well. So can you, again, we're putting a lot on you on this series of tax. Can you give a brief explanation about the VAT system and how one needs to navigate it?
Okay, so I think from your intro there, from your own experience, you've explained to everyone that VAT is a minefield.
Yeah.
And we have only got a short space of time to basically give the viewers a little bit of something to think about.
Yeah.
So going back to the very, very basics, what is VAT? Why does it exist? It is a value-added tax, and it is something which is charged on the end user of a product or service.
Okay.
So if you are in business and you register for VAT, you will pay VAT over, you will claim VAT back on your expenses, and everybody in that business chain will do that if they are registered for VAT.
Yeah.
VAT is suffered by the person at the end of the chain, whether that is in whether that is the consumer. So the end consumer would not pay any VAT, sorry, they would pay the VAT, whereas everyone else through the chain has claimed that back.
Yeah.
From your business point of view, the first thing you've got to ask is, are you providing a taxable service for VAT? So you might have heard of some services being exempt from VAT.
Yeah.
So primarily that would be insurance services. Some of the services in the healthcare sector, some services in the education sector, and if you're working in the third sector, your charities, there may be an element of services which are exempt from VAT. Now, if you are exempt from VAT, you don't need to worry about it. You can just park that one and just carry on trading as normal. However, if you are working in the healthcare sector or the education sector, a little bit of digging to just clarify that you are exempt, because there are specific guidelines that you have to meet in order to do that. The majority of other businesses will be providing what we call taxable goods or services. So VAT would attach to what you are providing. There are different rates of VAT. So there is standard 20% rate of VAT. There is a 5% VAT rate, which is for domestic fuels. Very few people will be using the 5% VAT rate, but it's something that you may come across in your invoices. And there is also a 0 rate of VAT. So children's clothing is the popular example. People say, oh, there's no VAT on children's clothing. There is VAT on children's clothing because it is a taxable supply. It is just taxed at 0%.
Okay.
So it's terminology rather than anything else.
Yeah.
But Does your business need to account for VAT? If it's exempt, no. If you are taxable services, possibly yes.
So once we've established that we are in those possibly yes sort of bracket of what we're doing,
Yep.
when does it apply? Does it apply straight away? Do I have to earn so much money?
This is when I don't give a straight answer. This is the typical accountant that says, it depends.
Yeah.
So the first thing you've got to think about is, are your customers also VAT registered? If that is the case, you register for VAT and you would add VAT onto your sales. Your customer, if they are VAT registered, they will just claim it back. So
And that's what
nobody
you
is
said
any better or worse off.
About that chain, you
They're
had
in
a
a
link
chain.
in that chain where everyone claims it back.
That's right, yes. As a VAT registered business, you would also need to charge VAT on your sales. Sorry, I've said that already. You can claim back the input VAT on your purchases.
Okay.
So if you have bought something and you have got VAT on it, now the revenue are very strict about this. You must have an invoice which says the VAT amount. The invoice needs to be addressed to the business and it needs to show the VAT reference number of your supplier.
To show everyone is in that chain.
So this is evidence, and then you can only claim that back. If you do not have the paperwork, you cannot claim back the VAT. Also thinking about claiming back VAT, think about before you started your VAT registration, can you go back and claim for things that you have purchased previously? Now, HMRC allow you to claim on those pre-trade expenses. You can get up to 6 years for capital goods. So if you have got a lot of kit, we're in a studio here, so there's a lot of cameras and IT equipment, TV screens, there'll be quite big spend. There'll be a lot of VAT on that, which you don't want to lose out on. So if you are registering from VAT from the 1st of January, you can look back into the previous year and there may be qualifying expenses which fall under pre-registration and you are able to claim back some of the VAT on that.
So it's not just looking forward, it's looking backwards on your business setup if you knew and just...
From that first VAT return, yes, you would go back, and then everywhere after that, it would be a return. Normally every 3 months you would submit a VAT return. So your business can elect to voluntarily register for VAT. So if your customers are all going to claim back your VAT anyway, it doesn't really matter whether you're registered for VAT or not. The benefit might be that you can claim back a lot of those expenses. So you might want to register from the start of your business. However, if you are dealing with the general public are not normally registered for VAT, so they cannot claim back any VAT that you charge them. In that case, you might not want to register for VAT, which is fine. You don't need to register for VAT when you start out in business. If you are not registering for VAT, you need to bear this in mind and monitor your turnover. So your total income that you receive from all of your business activities, if it reaches a certain threshold, you must register for VAT.
So just to clarify, that's not profit, that's turnover.
Correct,
okay, good.
So total income, if it goes over a certain threshold in that 12-month period, you must register for VAT. Now the threshold changes all the time. It's currently around about £90,000. So if you are generating, say, 7.5 grand income every month, you need to have in the back of your mind, I need to think about VAT and at what point will it hit? Now, when we're looking at breaching that turnover threshold, we don't look at it on a year-on-year basis. It's on a rolling monthly basis. So at the end of each month, you would look back 12 months. The end of the next month, you would go back 12 months again.
So you're almost resetting every month to that previous year.
Yes. And then once you go over the threshold, you will have 1 month following the year that you breached the threshold in order to register. If you don't register, and HMRC see that your turnover has gone over that threshold, then they could come back to you and say, right, you should have registered from that date. We will take the VAT element of your income from that date. And that could be quite costly.
And that's the loss of control again, that if you're controlling and observing and telling the right narrative, you can stay in control of that as a business. Whereas if you don't, you've lost control. I think that we can see there that VAT very quickly gets very complex, and I don't want to sort of put on Tony. And it is a one-on-one thing, isn't it? You really need to have that conversation.
It's an individual discussion because all businesses are different, and yes, whether it's worthwhile to do it straight away or not is not a decision to be made lightly. because
Yeah.
there is the administrative burden of sending in returns on a quarterly basis, and also paying that tax and having the money set to one side. So yeah, if you are thinking about something like that,
Speak to
take some
someone.
advice.
Yeah. So, introduction that VAT is something that you can do, don't have to do at the early stages, but also that when you do it or feel that it's a question that you need to confront, definitely seek professional help with that. Next thing we wanted just to do a whistle-stop tour of was payroll. Now, there's new legislation coming in, which means it's going to be even more expensive to have staff. Some businesses can operate without staff. Some businesses essential that they have a lot of staff. Now that it should all be factored in what they're charging and what they're making. But from our point of view, again, a lot of small businesses with not many staff, or businesses who are just about to start taking on staff, discuss.
Okay, right. So VAT, another one of these minefield areas, but what do you need to consider? So if you are a business setting up, you want to take on staff, can you afford them? What is the staff member going to do? And are they going to add value to the business? Will they free up the time to let you do other stuff or not?
And part of that, can I afford them, isn't just your hourly rate. What's the minimum wage? What can I afford to pay them? That's what it's going to
Absolutely.
cost me. And that is the problem that I think a lot of people maybe don't always think about. It's not the £15 an hour, the £25 an hour, whatever it is that your service sort of should charge. It's everything else.
Yeah, so we have got minimum wage rates. Minimum
Yeah.
wage rates are set by law. You must pay that level. Now that depends on the age of the employee that you're taking on. It depends if they're under an apprenticeship scheme or if they are not. But you know, these rates are set. You cannot pay any less than that. So there is a minimum that you must pay somebody. That would be their gross wages. Also, as an employer, you may have responsibilities for paying into a workplace pension scheme.
Yeah.
If your employee is generating more than X amount, they could fall into that. So you need to pay maybe 3% of their salary into a payroll scheme and deduct 5% from their wages, just to make sure that the employee has got that pension provision. The other thing to think about is national insurance on your employees' costs. Your employees will pay national insurance themselves, but you as an employer have to make an additional contribution. Now, those rules are changing when we go into the next tax year. So this is the tax year which will start in April 2025. We have got an increase in the amount of national insurance an employer has to pay. So larger firms with a larger team of staff will see their wage costs increasing quite significantly. So if anybody is in that position where they have quite a large team, it's worthwhile just to have that check what the wages are going to be moving forward, so they can plan for that, so they're not getting that shock. So yeah, so that was the payroll liability itself. Also consider the overall cost of staff. So we've got wages, national insurance, pension contributions, but what about like any ancillary costs? Do they need somewhere to sit? Do they need somewhere to work? Do they have a desk space? Do they have a chair? Is it an ergonomic desk which is suitable for work? You can't cramp people up and have them sitting on top of each other. They've got to have decent workspaces. Is there a cost attached to that? Do you need to find bigger office premises? So there's the other kind of like having a workforce costs that need to be borne into account as well. So it makes it very, very expensive. So bear that one in mind, because you will need to pay your staff. They will have holiday leave. They will have paternity, maternity rights. You know, if they've got, fortunately, they won't be ill, but if they are, you need to have some kind of sickness policy in place. And also, I've never mentioned, but it is really, really important. It's probably key when you are taking on staff to have employment contracts in place. So using an HR specialist to let you know you are protected, because that's what the employment contract is. It protects you as the business owner. It also protects the employee as well. And if anything does go wrong later on down the line, you have got that document to fall back on.
And it is that thing, having had staff before, later down the line, when it's all good and everyone's shaking hands and going like, oh, this is great, of course, we love working here and we'll do everything that we say. It's easy not to think about it, but then they're not the conversations you have when you really need that all that in place.
This is true, yeah.
that segues really nicely to the fact that we are going to be doing a webinar on HR for small business as well. So that wasn't even planned. So thank you very much for scooping in on that, Tony. Thanks again for coming today. VAT and payroll, this is a bit, why we did it short and separate is it's not for everyone, and it can sound a bit doom and gloom. Thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses out there pay VAT, claim it back, charge it, and that's absolutely fine. So I don't want you to get scared about it. It's just an awareness of, is it right for you and when it is right for you on that timeline thing again. Same with payroll. We're not saying staff is the enemy. Again, if you look at some of the large companies or medium-sized companies that have quite a few staff, you know, they're essential. They're one of your greatest assets as a business if they're needed. But I think what we're sort of alluding to is the proper setup of having staff, not just sticking some money in someone's account for doing some work every month, is quite high and is about to get more complex and higher. So really analyze, what staff do you need? How many of them have you got? What is it in your gift that you have to supply them? Not just to be nice, but legally, so you don't fall foul of being an employer, but also what is the right thing to do? Can you afford it? Because if you half do it and then realize you can't afford it, that's awkward for you, because you've probably made a decision that your business is now going to be set up to have staff in. But also it's awkward for them because they've been employed under one sort of auspices, and then you've said, oh, actually, I don't think I can navigate that. And any forced changes in any area of business are never comfortable ones to make. So really do seek advice for VAT, analyze down whether you need staff and what that looks like for your costing structure. Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for Liquid Studios for allowing us to film in this amazing setting. Follow us on YouTube for more videos and look out for our future episode about HR.
A Liquid Studios production.